Hello, we're looking at sacred art. I can't paint to save my life, but we need it for Edexcel. Sacred means holy, and you will rightly say to me the Ten Commandments say we shouldn't be making sacred art. But St. John of Damascus, Damascus is in Syria, check with your geography teacher, says that when God became incarnate, remember God becomes flesh, God takes on the form of Jesus, he shows us what he is like in human form. He shows us he's merciful, he is compassionate, he is forgiving, all those things. I just received an email obviously. That gives us permission to be able to depict God, to paint God in sacred art as Jesus, because God has shown us what he's like. Doesn't mean that he definitely looks exactly like Jesus. When we get up to heaven we look exactly like that. God is just showing us his qualities through the person of Jesus Christ, and that gives us permission to make that art. Just before we begin, it's an icon. It's an icon. Now it means that a person who paints an icon has fasted, so you're unlikely to see a fat icon, a painter. So they've fasted, they've prayed, they've been to confession, they've received Holy Communion, so that when they start painting they are fit to paint something that is more than just a picture. It is an icon. Icon you not. And it shows us, the Eastern Orthodox Church says, an icon is a window into heaven. Because this person has prayed and fasted and has painted this picture, it shows us what awaits us in heaven. If we've lived a good life, then we hope that we are going to see Jesus Christ in heaven. Now, this particular icon is in St. Catherine's Monastery, and if you get a question in the exam, you can easily talk about this. Look at the face of Christ. Just look at that face of Christ. And if you look, it's almost as if he's got two halves. One half looks absolutely perfect, the other half looks less than perfect. My whole face looks less than perfect. But if you look at this side of the face looks absolutely perfect. It's showing the divine nature, the fact that Jesus is 100% God. And that half of the face doesn't look 100% perfect, so it's showing that Jesus is human. It doesn't mean that he was not perfect, but the artist is showing us the two natures of Christ, that Christ is God and Christ is man. Okay? Have a look around him. There's a circle around him. It's a halo. It's called a halo. I don't think it's one of Beyonce's halos, but anyway, it shows that he is holy. Then you see his hand is raised like this in blessing, but also note the three fingers that are showing Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So it symbolizes a Trinity, and here Jesus is holding a holy book. We assume it is the Bible, and it's showing Jesus is the Word of God, and it also tells us that the Bible is holy. Let's have a look at the next. Oh, those are just what I've told you already, okay? Now, have a look at this. Michelangelo, great artist, created this, the creation of Adam, and I've been rather creative myself because I cut out Adam's willy, because there are no free willies on this video. So, what can we see? If you have a look, go off and have a look at it on your own where you can see it a little bit more clearly. The faces of God and of Adam are similar. It shows that we are made in the image of God. You see God and Adam are reaching out to each other. It's symbolizing that God and humans reach out to each other for a deep and meaningful relationship. Now look, the artist has painted Adam on his own. There's nothing else on the world there. It's showing the importance of humans, the importance of the creation of humans. And if you look over there, who is higher? God is higher, and it shows that God is above us. This is a fresco. That means that it's been painted on wet plaster. It's a particular artistic technique where you paint on plaster, and then as the plaster dries, the paint becomes part of that plaster and it stays, and the colours become more vibrant and they come out. So that is Michelangelo's creation of Adam, and you've got a few points on that, and you'll see a few bullet points. I'm not going to read through that with you, but you can look that up yourself. Let's have a look at art that is not created by humans. The Turin Shroud. A number of you will have heard of this, and as the name suggests, it's in Turin, it's in Italy, but it didn't originate from there. And shroud covers a dead person. I think most of you are waiting for that to cover me. So, have a look at this. The Turin Shroud, the face, many people would say, of Christ. And you'll see there's a little bit more here of his chest. The Turin Shroud is a long piece of linen that covered a body of a man who was crucified. You will see from the shroud that there are marks of crucifixion on this man, and because it covered the whole body from the feet right up to the head, both back and front, it's almost like a negative image. There's no paint on the Turin Shroud, merely blood. And some scientists have been able to show that if you put the shroud under, I think it's very high lighting or some kind of machine, you get like a negative imprint, which would be impossible to reproduce by human hand. And therefore, a number of Christians and others would say this is a miraculous image. This is an image given to us to develop our faith, to build our faith, that Christ rises from the dead, and some people will argue that at that moment of resurrection something happens that imprints these images on the shroud. Other people will say, well, it's just the imprint of the blood. Others will say it's a total fake, say it's fake news, unlike my tan, but there's a debate. But most Christians will say, yes, this helps me to really deepen my faith because I believe this hasn't been created by human hand. This is beyond that. And some aspects of scientists are able to show us that this cannot have been produced in the ordinary way. If you don't quite buy that, try this one. The tilma of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Guadalupe is in Mexico, and the tilma is almost like a cloak, like, I guess like a cloak. And have a look at the image. That's the whole image, Our Lady of Guadalupe, and then you've got a close-up over here. Now, I'm not really going to do justice to this, so I'm just going to play a video clip, and I hope you get it from that.
I want to talk about the miraculous image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. It first appeared on December 12, 1531. According to the account, an Indian named Juan Diego had been visited by the Virgin Mary numerous times. She told him to go to the bishop so that a chapel could be built, but the bishop did not believe Juan. The bishop asked Juan to tell the lady to give a sign as a proof that it was truly the Mother of God who had appeared. In response, the Virgin told Juan to gather some roses in his tilma and present them to the bishop. As he did so, the roses fell to the floor, and the image of Guadalupe was miraculously imprinted on his tilma. It still exists to this day, 481 years later, and it can be visited in Mexico. The first miraculous aspect of the image that I want to discuss concerns the lack of an undersketch or an underdrawing. Infrared photography has demonstrated that there is no undersketching or underdrawing on the image of Guadalupe. That is miraculous because, as Dr. Philip Callahan, a research biophysicist from the University of Florida, explains, quote, "It's inconceivable that an artist in the 16th century would paint a portrait without first doing a drawing on it," end quote. Making an undersketch prior to painting a portrait goes back to antiquity. Thus, the fact that we have such an exquisite image with such precise details and features, and that it appears on a rough cactus fiber, is inexplicable when we consider that there is no undersketch. The next miraculous aspect of the image of Guadalupe that I want to discuss concerns its endurance. The tilma is made of a rough cactus fiber, as I said. This kind of cloth normally disintegrates in 15 to 30 years. But the image of Guadalupe has now remained for 481 years with no fading or even hairline cracking of the face or the main image. That is miraculous. This is even more astonishing when we consider that the image was subject to candle smoke for many years, which would speed up the process of deterioration. Indeed, attempts to make imitation copies of the image have failed. Quote, one famous example concerns a well-known anti-apparitionist named Jose Ignacio Bartolash. In order to try to disprove the miraculous nature of the image, he had an exact copy made on the same burlap-type material, and he hung it with great fanfare in the chapel built on the site of Our Lady's final appearance. But after 7 short years, the painting was so unsightly and discolored that on June 8, 1796, it was quietly moved to the sacristy. That's quoted in Brother Herbert Lee's Mother for a New World, Our Lady of Guadalupe, page 394. That means that attempts to reproduce the image have failed miserably. Concerning the miraculous endurance of the image, the following quote is of interest. I mentioned Dr. Philip Callahan earlier. He points out that, quote, the mantle is of a dark turquoise blue. This presents an inexplicable phenomenon because all such pigments are known to be subject to considerable fading with time, especially in hot climates. The Indian Mayan blue wall paintings are already badly faded. The blue mantle on the tilma of Guadalupe, however, is bright enough to have been laid last week, end quote. So the colors are miraculously fresh and bright. There's also the amazing fact that in 1778, a considerable amount of nitric acid was spilled on the image of Guadalupe. The workman fled in terror, expecting to have seriously damaged his country's most treasured possession, but to everyone's astonishment only slight stains appeared, which can still be seen in the upper right corner. That's quoted in Janet Barber, The Tilma and Its Miraculous Image, a handbook on Guadalupe, pages 61 to 62. There's also the fact that in 1921, a bomb was concealed in some flowers that were placed on the altar under the image of Guadalupe. The bomb went off and severely damaged a crucifix, but the glass that contains the image of Guadalupe miraculously was not even damaged.
I find all that fascinating. Now you can choose to believe it or not, but a number of points that we were given there show that this is no ordinary painting. And you might think, well, why have these paintings? Why have sacred art? Think, you have photographs of your family at home, particularly of those who have died. When you look at that photograph, it doesn't mean that they're suddenly there, but it reminds you of their presence. It reminds you of their love for you. It fills you with that hope that one day you will see them. It will bring back good memories of good times you've had with them, and it's the same thing for Catholics. When we look at sacred art, it doesn't mean we are worshipping the art. We're not worshipping the picture. It's a reminder of God's presence with us. It's a reminder that one day we hope to be with God, and that gives us hope.